Here I have the wonderful Pavel Aso, who's been fantastic in coming in and giving us an interview for Sjömacken and Sandra EF. Pavel is obviously an integral part of the process, but for us, he's now going to give us an indication of who he is and what he is. Off we go.
Thank you for having me and letting me explain my thoughts and my views of what we're trying to achieve here. As you informed, my name is Pavel, 27 years old, turning 28 in March. We moved to Borås around 2002. I was 12 years old, in love with the game of football. Wanted to become the absolute best, as every kid's dream is when you have your dreams in that age. Who am I? It's a really tough question because you form yourself as you grow, and my journey in terms of the game of football have not always been a good or a nice trip. Some aspects of it has been really hard, and I think that's one of the reasons I came across coaching, a way of getting back into the game. So I think my love for the game.
Oh, fantastic. So you've obviously highlighted the aspects of coaching already in terms of what it essentially would mean to you, but let's go a little bit deeper into that. You know, what first inspired you to coach? If you're coming off the back of your experiences, what it is that pushed you into coaching? What inspired you to be a coach?
To see yourself when you grow up and you look back at what you did and what you could have done, you always feel that you lacked something. And as a kid or as someone who's from a different background who doesn't have understanding for things and how things work, I think a tutor, a mentor, or someone to guide you and to lead you could really benefit and help. And I feel that I really missed out on that, to have a really good leader to help me, give me guidance throughout maybe I wouldn't have taken the pause from football between the age of 16 to 17.
So what you're highlighting actually is within those formative years, being inspired by football, you lacked a leader within that framework.
Yes.
What kind of attributes would a leader have that you would have expected for someone of that age? What drove your visions of a coach within that time?
To try to pick out what makes you better, because every person it's a really cliche way to think, but every snowflake is different, so you have to find your different angles in coaching and in educating children, because they all learn in different ways. And I think it's the most beautiful part to see a person find the best way for them of learning, because that's a feel of empowerment for them and for the tutor or for myself who's helped them along that journey. I like that a lot, because I had a hard time understanding the language, for starters, and my culture is really different from what we have here in this society. I would really it would have made an impact for someone to guide me through how do you learn best, Pavel? What's your way of learning? Because I couldn't adapt to all the other things I saw around me and how other people were learning.
So you know, obviously that's, I'm assuming, inspired you to coach the way that you coach now. But in reflection, was that a problem with culture, existing culture within sport at that time, as a child? You know, were there good people around, but maybe just, you know?
There were beautiful people around. I will never point the finger and say that their fault I didn't succeed. Of course, it's a big part of my personality too. But the understanding that you cannot treat everyone the same and give out one instruction and expect everyone to understand. That was what they lacked. I don't know if it was understanding or if it was lack of knowledge.
So it's a lack of competency that potentially you had.
That's how I feel now when I think back at it.
And
Yes.
I'm assuming that only comes from you having a much better understanding now of what coaching actually does mean.
Exactly.
Okay. Because you are obviously your current profession is as a teacher.
Yes.
Is that right? So how long have you been a teacher for?
I stepped into teaching when I was really young, 19 I think.
Mm-hmm.
Was my first trip into the teaching world and experienced the same kind of problems as a student. So it was not hard for me to get into teaching because I could understand the students in a different way from the other teachers, because it wasn't such a big age gap between us, first and foremost. And second, I wasn't the brightest. I knew which ways to take to educate myself, because I had to do that. And in that terms, I could teach the other.
So it was a process of understanding from experience that then allowed you to take the straightforward choice towards teaching.
Exactly.
But in respect to the teaching, has it supported your coaching? If you look at the values behind teaching, do they settle within the framework of coaching too?
They are very much similar, as you're pointing out, because when you step into a classroom, you have 26 students, all of them different, just as you have a team of 24 players, all of them different. You have to do the same thing, but instead of practically, theoretically, get into their heads and see in what way they learn. I was a student who learned best throughout listening to someone or to see something happening in front of me. Someone else reads a book and understands it immediately. That's the key figures of.
So a lot of crossover from teaching and coaching.
Yes, a lot.
For me personally, I think it's almost the same in some respects, or a lot of respects, as I say. Fantastic. Now, obviously, from my perspective, it's really interesting to get to know what inspired you as a coach. But what have your experiences as a coach been like specifically? If you look at your journey as a coach from the moment you started within football to now, what does that look like?
It's been a lot of ups and downs, of course, that is in everything. But as soon as I started, after my first month, I think I immediately set my mindset on what I want to do in terms of coaching. And that is to become one of the main figures who helps Swedish football to develop youth talents. So we can have more Zlatan Ibrahimovic or Forsbergs, for instance, and Lindelöfs, and not only 3 of them that we can count on our fingers. I want 10, 20 really good players in all the best leagues. That was my first thought.
And what club did you start off?
I started off with EF Elfsborg, with 10 years old, P10. It was a really good experience for me, because seeing the diversity of coaching and the cultural aspect of coaching overall was really interesting for me to see, because the things from when I was in Elfsborg had not changed until I became a coach myself there. And for me, I wanted to change that, and I started small. My two first colleagues quit, and I had got 2 beautiful new colleagues who were in many aspects a lot like me, but because I have been there before them, we built it up together and created something really beautiful, and something that the kids didn't want to leave in the end. And that sense of success, if I could put it in those terms, made me realize what it's really about.
And what is it about? And do the clubs that you've had experiences of so far, do they reflect the same vision as someone like yourself?
I got the honors to speak to Chris Ramsey this winter, and my first reaction from listening to him was, oh my God, there are more of people that are thinking like us, because he's not result based. It doesn't matter for him what they win until up there in the senior levels, because the club doesn't gain any money, the coaches doesn't gain any money. For them, it's a no-win, a no-lose. For a coach to get a call and one of your players telling you that you've made it to the national team, that's the trophy I want. I don't want the trophy with my youth 16 today. To go win the league wouldn't do us anything. I rather want that in the term of good football. And if that means that we will end up in the middle of the table, but by playing good football, educating football, that would allow them that if they step out of this comfort zone and get out to a new club, they will still be able to perform. That's what I want.
That sounds fantastic. But in respect to the cultural standing of Swedish football at the moment, does that level of support, that level of philosophy, or even indeed education, exist in order to support your own philosophy?
In some clubs, yes, but there are too many clubs who does not have this philosophy at all. And it crosses their minds, they're thinking about it, I think they're discussing it, but they're not doing anything about it because it's a process. You can just make a really easy comparison with Sweden and Belgium. They started their new way of looking at football and developing youth football 25 years ago. Look at their national team today. It's all paid off. All the De Bruynes, all the Lukakus, all the Mertens are coming now together in that national team.
So the results are inevitably at a senior level. You know, the building process is much more individualized. I can believe in that context. No, that's fantastic. When regarding youth development, then are the standards currently high in Sweden? You know, in terms of your experiences of who you've met. What other organisations that you've come across, you know, are the standards high in your, or do they meet your expectations?
Well, I have a lot of. I'm not afraid of bringing up discussions to talk with people who I know have been inside of Swedish football for a really long time and have the experience to give me the answers I'll maybe looking for. But I feel like they're. How to put this? No, they're not putting the high standards on because they do not trust their players to understand the high standards. I believe that when they hear about what kind of standards I want in my team among my players, they scratch their head and they think, I don't think they could handle it because that's the way you treat a grown-up. But these are young grown-ups. If I do not teach them the way the world looks today, and it will in only 5 years for them, then I've taught them nothing, then I failed at my job.
Interesting point. I think in respect to that, and we can obviously clearly hear that there is some, you know, a very deep-seated vision and style and philosophy within who you are as a person, not only as a coach. But what's really interesting for me is where does this go next for you? You know, for example, what club are you currently working at? Obviously, I think we're aware of what club you're working at, but what group specifically, and actually, how is this platform helping you move to where you want to be? Where do you want to go?
It took a long time to. It didn't take a long time because I was always on the verge of changing my workplace. I was working at Elfsborg and I always try to show what I am capable of what I am trying to create, and if they allow me, give me free hands, I could do something that they've maybe not seen before or maybe not tried out before. But I didn't get that honest chance to prove that. So when yourself and Sjömark and Sandra had knocked on my door and presented this idea and this project that you're all working on, I didn't have anything else to honestly think about because this was what I've been searching for, to be able to educate. Many of my students are now my players, which I could combine both school and football, and that's an idea I've had for a really long time. I think it's on the right path to create and educate our children for the future, because football is not the beginning and not the end. Many will hopefully become professional footballers, but the others cannot be forgotten who doesn't want the future of football. That means we have to educate them on the way, and Sandra and Sjömarken are honestly giving me the chance to start to making that progress. And
fantastic. And then obviously we look at the future for you. So, you know, Sjömarken and Sandra are a grassroots club, clearly with a huge amount of ambition. that they will be realised in the near future, I'm sure. But by all accounts, for you in particular, what does the future hold? What would you like to see for Pavel Aso in the future?
For Pavel Aso in the future, well, I have a lot of big dreams, just as my players. That's what we have in common, and that's why it's so good that we share a common goal. For them to be professionals, for me to be a big professional coach. I want their kids to, when they pick up a book in the future and read about how Swedish football have changed, my name is going to be among them, and they'll see that Pavel was one of them to create something that made Swedish football go forward and be one of the leading countries in developing talents.
Fantastic. It's I think that's without a doubt going to be the case, but it's incredible to hear. Stepping forward, going very, very specific to Sjömacken and Sandred now. Obviously, the club itself is now putting itself into a very good position in terms of how it supports coaches like yourself. What projects, what things would you like to see in place at a club like this in order to help support your journey further? What parts of the club could really do? What could we do better looking forward?
Well, it's that everybody pulls in the same direction. I think it's really important that it's not only one or two or three leaders with the same mentality. I think it's important that we amplify that on all the leaders and future mentors who are coming into this club. That's a really, really important asset, because one person can make a difference, but a lot of person can make a lot of difference, as you usually say. To interact, to get the coaches working with you in towards the same goal. I think it's important for the whole area to be open-minded about I think it's a mental aspect. Many of the things, I don't think they have all the resources, all the good players, really good mentors in this area. But I think it's a mental problem where we need to, let's take the risk and do it, because if we pull together, we'll manage and we'll succeed in this.
Fantastic. Okay, for me, this kind of we'll now obviously try and conclude the interview now. But last of all, is there anything specific that you would like to highlight in relation to either the social demographic of football, or in fact the educational demographic of football, that you think might need to either things that are really good about it, or in fact things that need to change about how we as a set culture within football moving forward? How do we engage ourselves to get better at what we do? Are there certain things within that?
You mean in terms of changing the way Swedish football looks today?
Yeah, football in general. Overall,
football in general.
Absolutely.
I think it's to start not look at these beautiful players we have, that they are already finished, complete players, because that's not the fact. We have to see them as talents, someone we can develop all the time. We have to get away from the thoughts of result. We do not need results right now. We need development. We need education. That's what's important for the development of players today. To educate and not go to think about the result.
And I'm assuming that also goes for the coaches as well. You know,
of course, it's the coaches who needs to start to think like this. And winning or losing, as long as you stick to your game plan, as long as you play the way of football that you want to play, to implement your ideas and the players' ideas, I think you're on the right path.
Fantastic. Cool. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it, and we look forward to spending a little bit more time in the future as well. Thank you. Thank you. Great stuff.
Thanks.